Hello friends, welcome to SavanKnits. This is my knitting podcast where I talk all about the things that I'm knitting that are bringing me joy. And I am Savannah and I am from Utah in the United States where I am a stay-at-home mom. And I also wanted to say a huge welcome to anyone new here. I feel very grateful to be expanding my little corner of this knitting community and just feeling very grateful that you're here and just excited to get into things. So today we have a couple of finished objects. I have a continued whip and 2 new whips to show you, as well as a couple new yarn acquisitions, and I think that that's it. So let's get into it. So you may have noticed what I am wearing. This is the Kaleidoscope Cardigan by Jaime Creates or Jamie Dorfman. This is from her book Fast and Fabulous Knits, and I will show you the picture of it. And it's basically finished. I just need to add buttons. And if you know anything about button shopping, which I'm sure you do, it can be a process, both finding the right size, finding the right buttons that match, finding the right place to buy them from. It's a whole thing, but I'll get into that later. I knit this up in Malabrigo Rios. And the colors, the blue is aquamarine, the green is water green, and the pink is almond blossom. And they're all worsted weight yarns. You hold them together, it makes a super bulky weight, so 9mm needles. And as I mentioned before, it was a little tricky with my gauge of just having that big of needles and purling on that big of needles, but blocking fixed it. Let's see, I knit a size medium, and to be honest, when I finished this cardigan, it was pretty short, and I definitely knit the sleeves shorter than what the pattern calls for. I knit them 10 rows shorter, but I always do that with patterns because I have short arms. So I did do that, but I also knew that this yarn is a superwash yarn, so I expected it to grow a lot with blocking. So with the sleeves, I stopped, or my whole sleeve was like to here. But I wasn't worried because I knew that blocking would lengthen it a lot, and especially with it being such a heavy, super bulky sweater, the weight would definitely pull those sleeves down. So I'm happy to say that they are the perfect length now that I have blocked them. And honestly, this is just so cozy. I got it off the blocking mats yesterday, and I wore it to the preschool drop-off. I wore it to like 3 button stores, 3 craft stores trying to find buttons. And then I wore it for hours last night reading. And I can already tell this is going to be one of my most worn knits ever. Very easy to just throw on and take off whenever I need it. It has a very squishy, very soft fabric that I love. And honestly, it is not too hot. I thought it would be a lot hotter being super bulky. But I haven't found that to be the case just yet. Obviously, I wouldn't wear it out in the afternoons right now because it's still 80 degrees here, but it works for those chilly mornings, cozy evenings reading. So very happy with how it turned out. But I am excited to find some buttons. I thought I wanted to get some pink ones like she has in the pattern. She does have these beautiful like flowery pink ones, and I really wanted to match that, and I was just having the hardest time trying to find buttons. I went to 2 big craft stores by me, and then I drove a little bit to my local yarn and gift store, I guess. And I just couldn't find any that I liked. They either looked too plasticky or they weren't the right shade of pink because it needs to be the right pastel shade and it needs to be a cooler shade. So I didn't find any like that. And then I was finding some good options on Etsy, but I just didn't want to spend that much money. This is already one of my most expensive knits, coming at around $150 for the yarn. And the book was free, gifted to me from Page Street Publishing. So all in all, I don't want to spend more money than I already have on this cardigan, at least a lot more. So I decided maybe I will go with some like white cream buttons. So maybe like mother of pearl buttons. I don't know. I ordered like a bulk pack of that type from Amazon because it was cheaper. I mean, I was willing to spend more money maybe if I could see them in person at the other stores that I went to, but I'm always so wary of buying buttons online, especially if I was going to buy pink, because I don't know if they would match. But this pack on Amazon has a lot of different sizes of this like pearl cream color. So those should be coming on Friday. I am sure that I will be able to find some that go with this cardigan, and I will definitely show you when I get those on. I think I'm going to do the same method as I did with my Courage Henley, where I'm just going to use a strand of the pink yarn in this, the Almond Blossom, and maybe break down the plies a little bit to get a thinner thread to sew the buttons on. So that is my current plan. I also think the buttons will help hold the sweater up. There isn't any shoulder shaping or any short rows or anything for this cardigan. It is a pretty basic pattern, definitely for beginners, which I knew that going in, and I wasn't looking for like the perfect fit with this cardigan. I just wanted it to be oversized, comfy, and it achieved all those things. It is very comfy and oversized, and I don't feel like it's really falling off of my shoulders a lot. But I definitely do feel these stitches feel like they're stretching a little bit to me, and you can kind of tell that like you can see through to my black shirt underneath a little bit, just because the weight of the sleeves is so heavy and there's no structure holding this on top of my shoulders. But I do feel like when I close it, it feels a little bit more structured and stable. So I think having buttons will help with the fit as well. That being said, I don't know if I'll wear it more open or more closed. I haven't decided yet. There's one cardigan that I've made. I think it's the Match Cardigan by Kadri, and I don't think I have opened it since I closed the buttons right after I sewed them on. I just throw it on top like a sweater. I do want to have more options with this one, having it open or closed, so that's my goal. Also, I mentioned in my last episode that I didn't know if I wanted to add more rows to the button band, and a very nice comment agreed with me that I should add lengths to the button band, and I think that was just kind of like the push that I needed, someone else's opinion on it of like, yes, it's worth it to go back, it's worth it to rip back and add a couple more rows. So I did add 2 more rows to this button band, and I think it looks way more proportional, way more, yeah, just it fits the vibe. I think beforehand it was just too skinny. It definitely feels better. And I also think a 20mm button will go perfectly with this size of button band. So I'll update you hopefully next week on what the buttons look like and everything. I started this cardigan on September 20th and finished it on September 28th, so it took me 9 days. Obviously not counting buttons or blocking, but it is a quick knit. So if you are needing a cardigan in your wardrobe and you are impatient like me, this is a good pattern for you. Honestly, any of Jamie Dorfman's patterns in this book are perfect for more impatient knitters, or just if you want something in your wardrobe fast because the weather is changing. Bulky knits are the way to go. I used to exclusively work in bulky yarn, or super bulky yarn as a beginner, and honestly it was perfect for me then because as a beginner knitter I just wanted the product. I didn't have a lot of joy in the journey at first because knitting was still hard for me. I was still learning a lot of the techniques, but working on bulky or super bulky yarn just gave me the opportunity to make a lot of sweaters and a lot of cardigans in a short amount of time, which helped me improve my skills way faster than if I had started with fingering or DK yarn. So it was kind of fun to return to super bulky knit after probably a year of not really doing anything in bulky yarn. So it was kind of like returning to my roots a little bit, I feel like, but in a product that's more wearable for me because it is a natural fiber, and one that I've been dreaming about. I've been dreaming about making this cardigan for so very long. So I am very happy with the product. I am very excited to get a lot of wear out of this. I love the colors. I just love everything about it. And hopefully the buttons will make me love it even more. So that is my Kaleidoscope Cardigan by Jaime Creates. One more finished object to show. I have finished my Colorwork socks. Here they are. My first Colorwork socks ever. These are part of the Colorwork Cuff Club by Summer Lee. I talked a little bit more about that cuff club in my last podcast, so if you want to know more about that, go over there, or you can click the link in my description box and find out all the info there. But this is the August chart that I am just now getting around to. It was my first time doing colorwork. I knit these up on a 2.25 millimeter and a 2.75 for the colorwork portion. And I used Cascade Heritage in Melon for this, and then some leftover stash Yarn Bee Pigment and Fiber in Green Thumb for this white. And yeah, as I mentioned, first time doing colorwork, so it honestly does look a bit wonky in places. Like I've got this this puckered line right here and just some kind of bumpy stitches. But that's okay. It's okay. I have come to terms with the first time you do something is not going to be perfect. And it was a learning curve, as I mentioned last time, of just figuring out how to make the colorwork not as tight so I can fit it over my foot, pulling on those floats after I had knit them to kind of stretch out the colorwork section so I could fit it. Blocking did help a lot too. Before blocking, I could get them on, but it did require a lot of tugging and maneuvering to get it over my foot. But now that I've blocked it, fits over my foot way better. More of a smooth process putting on instead of like a Cinderella type stepsister trying to put this sock on my foot that doesn't fit. What else? I made a size large. I did it my first time actually doing a 2x1 cuff, which is Summer Lee's favorite. Honestly, I'm not sure why it's her favorite. It looks nice. Maybe because it looks less like a ribbing and she doesn't want it to look as much like a ribbing. I'm not sure. Another thing I did different with these socks is I did 2 at a time for the colorwork portion. I did the colorwork of one sock and then did the colorwork of another sock and then went back and finished the heels and the foots for both of them. And I think that is what I'm going to do from now on because it was really nice to get the colorwork all done at once while I was in that mindset, and it made the rest of the sock go by pretty fast knowing that I was just being able to finish it, and then I could just go to the next one and do stockinette for the second sock. So solved second sock syndrome for me, although I haven't had a ton of that second sock syndrome. I think because I'm still relatively new at socks. I only learned how to do socks in the spring of this year, so I'm still like really excited to add more socks to my wardrobe. But yeah, I started these on September 13th and finished them on October 1st, so 19 days for these beautiful, beautiful socks. And I think I need a break from Colorwork socks for a minute. So I am going to be working on other things, but Summerlee released her newest Colorwork Cuff Club chart for October. She actually has 2 charts and they are adorable. Look at the ghosts. I love the ghosts so much. So I don't know. I might start those soonish. We shall see. But yeah, these are the Colorwork Cuff Club Socks by Summerlee. All right, let's get into my whips. The first one is the Book Club Cardigan by Sari Nordlund, and I am knitting this on Drops Nopal in light beige. And I am using a 4mm needle and making a size 4, which should give me 7 inches of positive ease, and I think it won't. I swatched for this, but again, minimalist swatcher here. My gauge is a little bit tighter than what my swatch was, but that's okay because I have heard from one of you lovely commenters that Drops Nopal grew for you, so I am feeling okay about where my gauge is at and what I think it will, how I think it will fit after I'm done. So I'm not too worried about that. And this is just supposed to be a big cozy cardigan. So again, I think if it grows, that will be okay. But if it doesn't, if it's a little bit tighter, that's okay too. There's a lot of inches of ease going on here. So either way, I think it will still fit and be beautiful. I will show you where I'm at so far. It's a little bit hard to show, but this is how much I have. This, I put on a progress keeper where I was last episode, so I've got this one. Love the plants. So yeah, made that much progress in a week. I am still absolutely loving this process, loving the cables. I'm finding that I can't really work on it during the day though when my kids are around because I will make mistakes. So this has been exclusively in the evening or nap time knitting, and it feels like a reward to get to it. So that is a good feeling. I have finished with this is the upper back panel that I have finished. So now I will be picking up stitches on either side, here and here, for the front panels. And I have put off doing this for a day or two because it was just easier to show this way. Usually when it's a construction like this where you knit the upper back and then you cut the yarn and then pick up stitches on the other side for the front, they say to put this part on like another needle or a stitch holder, and I never do. I just keep it on my cord and then just kind of flip it and then pick up stitches like that. So it's going to be very difficult to show you from now on. So I wanted you to see it in all of its full cabley glory before I make it look like a tangled mess when I do the fronts, but that's just easier for me to knit it that way, so that's what I'm going to do. The reason why I think this is such an enjoyable knit for me too is I have found a rhythm with knitting it. I feel like with the chart, now that I've gotten this far on it, I know which direction the cables are going. Like I know the direction these should be going. I have figured out how to do like this cable without looking at the chart. Obviously I still have to look at the chart to know what is coming up next, but I'm not having to look at like the abbreviations and how to do that particular cable. So I feel like that's been really nice. And I also have been doing it without a cable needle. I have done cabled socks, and I didn't use a cable needle for those, and it kind of blew my mind that I could do that without a cable needle. So this is my first garment that I've ever done without using a cable needle, and I am a big fan. Big fan. I feel like it's going so much faster for me personally. I feel like it's way less fiddly to have something else hanging off of my knitting that I have to maneuver around. It's becoming quite fast. And honestly, the biggest cable are these ones, and it's a 2/2 cable. I don't speak cable language, so I don't know what it's really called, but you're only doing like 4 stitches, and then these ones are just 3 stitches that you're kind of moving around. So it's been a really nice to have that be more relaxing, and that I don't have to keep, you know, writing down or like referring back to my notes of which cable is which. So yeah, makes it much more enjoyable. I started this on September 20th and obviously still working on it. So it's been on my needles for 13 days. And honestly, I kind of wish I was a little bit further along than that for this amount of time, but I have to give myself grace because I've been working on some other stuff. I was really focused on this cardigan, this Kaleidoscope Cardigan, and I've also been trying to read a little bit more, so can't do all the things all the time, and sometimes I just want to. But yeah, this is my Book Club Cardigan by Sari Nordlund. All right, the next 2 whips that I have are gift knits. I'm trying to get those at least started, if not out of the way a little bit, so I don't have to worry about them later on. But these are for my mom. I am making the Selbu Mittens, and I got this pattern from this book, Norwegian Knitting Designs. I went to a Scandinavian festival with my family, with my parents and brother and sister-in-law a couple months ago, and there was this book at one of the booths, and my mom bought it for me because she's a huge fan of like Scandinavian knitting designs. Also, both of my parents have very strong history from Denmark, and so they've always been kind of interested in Scandinavian knitting. So I think she bought me this as like kind of a nudge to do more color work, do more classic Scandinavian color work. And so I thought it would be really nice to pick a pattern from this book that she bought me to make her a Christmas gift out of, because this is her style. She loves stuff like this. And also, before I show you the pattern, this book is also cool because it has the a reprinted version of like the original Norwegian knitting designs, what it used to look like, which I think is so cool. It has really old pictures of like actual finished projects. Like, that's so cool. The charts look so hard to read though. It's definitely a lot harder. So I'm grateful for knitting charts nowadays, but still just so cool that they've kind of continued with this version. So this book has all of these patterns in here. They or most of them at least. So they just kind of modernized them for knitters now, which I think is very, very nice. Okay, here's a picture of the ones I'm making. Beautiful, right? I feel like they might take a couple years off my life, but they're beautiful. So I think she will love them as well. I have chosen red and white. So I have been working on the cuff. And what I really like about these is they have this like geometric bottom part of the mitten, which they call crooked path, translated into English, of course, from Norwegian, I'm assuming, according to the book. So that has been really fun to figure out, because that was one of those things where you look at a pattern and you're like, how do they do that? I have no idea how you would even do that. But it's a lot simpler than I thought. It's just a 2-row repeat of some decreases and yarn overs. So yeah, quite cool. I am using a size 1 needle, so 2.25 millimeter. And then when I get to more of the color work, I'll switch to 2.75. and I'm using Cascade Heritage 6 in the colors Snow and Christmas Red, which are perfect names for a Christmas present yarn. Christmas Red and Snow, perfection. However, I am a little worried that this yarn is going to bleed like crazy. According to Google, a lot of people have had issues with Cascade Heritage and Cascade Heritage 6 bleeding. I haven't had any issues with Cascade 220 bleeding, and so I kind of assumed it would be the same with this, but now I'm really worried, especially with how vibrant this red is. Like, look how vibrant that is compared to the white. So I'm a little terrified. So terrified, in fact, that I am not going to block these. I am going to steam block them. But I don't know if that works the same with Colorwork. And I tried to look online and see what I could find out in a relatively quick Google search, and I could not find anything. So I am asking if anyone has some further knowledge on this. Will steam blocking give me the, maybe not the same results as wet blocking, but like good enough results? And I'm assuming the yarn won't bleed if it's steam blocked, correct? That's what I'm going to try. Perhaps I should try that with just what I have so far. That might be a good idea. Because I really don't want these to bleed, and I don't think my mom will notice if they're like, I don't think she will care if they're not perfect, if it's, the color work isn't like perfectly flat, perfectly executed. I think she will be fine with it if it looks good enough. I don't know. So tell me your opinions on this. Will this bleed if I do steam blocking, / will it look good enough if I do steam blocking? Or have you had anything bleed using Cascade Heritage 6? I would love to know. I think that's all I have to say. It's a beginning project, so not a lot to show you. I started these on September 29th, so I've only been working on them for 4 days. And hopefully I'll have more to show you next time, maybe even getting into the actual color work of it. So yeah, these are the Selbu Mittens. All right, one last work in progress to show you. It is another gift knit, this time for my dad. I am making My Baker's Hat by Emily Russell, and a couple podcast episodes ago, I think in my fall knitting plans video, actually, I was talking about my dad, how when I first learned to crochet, I crocheted him a just single crochet low profile hat out of this like tan color, and he wears it all of the time. Like, it's his most worn hat. I think he just keeps it in his Jeep and just throws it on whenever it's cold, when he's driving or out doing something, whenever. And honestly, I just want to make him a better one, because that one was a beginner hat. It's also made out of acrylic, so I feel like I should make him one out of wool so that it can be a little bit warmer. And it would be cool to give him something that's knitted, a knitted hat to go with his crochet hat. Although I'm pretty sure my mom is secretly hoping that he will get rid of that crochet hat and just use this knitted one, because she doesn't think the crochet one is very cute, which it's not, granted, because it just wasn't I didn't do a very good job on it. But I decided to make him one for Christmas out of my leftover Cascade 20 in Doeskin Heather. I did the Courage Henley out of this yarn, and I had a skein left over, and I thought, perfect, I could make a hat for my dad because he wants a low profile hat. He loves tan light brown colors, so I thought this would be perfect. So yeah, I am just working on the cuff right now. This is worked from the cuff to the top of the hat using a square decreases when you get there. It's a very simple pattern. It is free as well. I don't feel confident enough to just freehand a hat yet, so this one is very nice that it's free and very simple, and I think my dad will love it because, yeah, there's no frills, there's no anything extra on it. It's just a basic hat, which I think he will use a lot, or hopefully he will use a lot. I'm working these on 5mm needles. Calls for 4mm, but I'm a tight knitter, and according to my gauge on my Courage Henley, I will reach gauge for this hat if I use a 5mm, because I used a 5mm for that sweater and they're about the same gauge, so that's what I'm using for this. And I started this morning. So yeah, it's a relatively new cast on. I also have this beautiful stitch marker that I made. I mean, I didn't make the flower pendant. My friend brought that back for me from Italy a couple years ago. It was on a necklace and I made it into a stitch marker, but more on that later. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this. Not a lot to show, but My Baker's Hat by Emily Russell. All right, we are nearing the end of the episode. Just 2 quick yarn purchases to show you. The first is by Coast to Coast. This is White Way of Delight sock set, based on or inspired from Anne of Green Gables, which is one of my favorite books ever. Relate to Anne with having red hair, being a little bit of a Spitfire. So as soon as I saw this, I loved it so much. I have been loving purples lately, like light purples, lavenders, so absolutely love. Can't wait to make this. I'm really hoping to reread Anne of Green Gables this month, so wouldn't that just be the most amazing thing, to be rereading the book as I'm making a sock set inspired by Anne of Green Gables? That would be the dream. And then the other yarn that I received was a pre-order from Ruby and Roses. This is her Soft Rose base in Bloom is the colorway for that. I think this is one of the skeins. It's very beautiful, but I think it will look even more beautiful knit up. Just with those speckles, I think it will just look stunning. And I should have mentioned that this base is just their classic socks set. 80-20 blend. What is this blend? I'm curious. This is an 85-15 blend. So anyways, yeah, 2 new sock sets to do. I need to get on making more socks, but My Baker's Hat by Emily Russell is kind of taking place of my sock knitting right now, just because I want the gift knits done in time to enjoy the holidays. And then I also made some stitch markers. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that saga on my Instagram stories. When I was doing all of my button hunting, I found some of those like earring clasps for jewelry, and I've seen people make stitch markers with those. And so I got out my jewelry box and got out all of these old necklaces, most of them from high school, because pendant necklaces, I guess, were big back then, maybe. I don't know. It wasn't like the style queen in high school either, so don't know. But it was really fun, like repurposing those necklaces, and some of them are earrings, to be stitch markers, because I don't wear a lot of jewelry now. I just wear the same things every day. Just not a huge jewelry person, but I still love those pieces, and so turning them into stitch markers I felt was the perfect way for me to be able to still use those beautiful necklaces, those beautiful jewelry pieces, and to look at them often, because I look at my knitting every day. So it's really fun to have stitch markers with things that I love. So yeah, I have a picture and I can show you here, and I'm just very, very happy with how they turned out. Just very thrilled. It was fun to do something new, a craft that challenged me a little bit. So yeah, added those to my collection. And let's see, any updates? This week I did host a craft night with some people in my neighborhood. It was really fun. I didn't know how much interest there would be in it, because I just wanted to have a night where I'm knitting at night anyways, but I thought it would be fun to have more of like socialization while I'm doing it. And so I asked if anyone would be interested in coming to a craft night, and there was a lot of interest. I had 6 neighbors show up, and I was the only one knitting, and most of them were doing either watercolors or adult coloring books or paint by numbers or things like that. And I think one other person was doing like her homeschool curriculum. But it was just a really fun time to all just be feeling that crafting energy, like all of us creating something, but also being able to just chat about life and our families, and I don't know, just have that kind of social connection while you're crafting. It felt truly special, and I just had a blast. So I think I'm gonna try to do that once a month maybe, just see who comes every time and continue that, because it honestly was a lot of fun. So I surprised even myself because I am a very big introvert, but that's the kind of event that I could host. Just a very chill, bring your craft, let's chat kind of night. That is my kind of night. And then another thing is I wanted to ask if you have any TV show recommendations, because I don't have anything to watch. I watch knitting podcasts and I love knitting podcasts so much, but sometimes you just want a show. So I wanted to ask if you have any recommendations. I would love to hear. And I think that's all for today. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, especially if you've made this far, and feel free to follow me on Instagram, where you get more day-to-day updates in my Instagram stories, as well as follow me on Ravelry. You can see all of my projects and yarns that I use. I'll have that linked down below as well, or you can send me an email at SavanKnits@gmail.com. And yeah, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I would love to know what you're working on, and I hope that you are finding joy in your knitting journey this week, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.